Assalamu alaikum. So the lesson today is about absolute value equations. So we're going to learn absolute value linear equations. So first let's define what is it. So absolute value linear equations is any equation defined by absolute value linear equations is any equation defined by a absolute value of bx plus c plus d equal e. A of and x of course is the variable x. So to solve case, to solve this type equation, all right, so case one, learn d equal e. So the case one is when a is equal to 1, b is not equal 0, c equals 0, and d equals 0. In fact, we learn first case is we learn to solve Vx equal E. So keep in mind, and this is the key of absolute value, not linear but in equations. Those two should be the same in terms of sign. We know absolute value is positive, that means E must be positive. So that means this number should be positive. When you have absolute value equal to itself, equal a number, that means that number must be positive. So this is the first case. If A is negative, don't do nothing, just conclude, then no solution. Why? Because we end up having a contradiction. So for example, if they ask me to solve 3x equal minus 5, absolute value is always positive, minus 5 is negative. Positive never can be equal to negative. This is a false statement. So no solution is your conclusion. You see, there's now no sign here. If I have a minus here and a minus here, first I need to make sure that there is no coefficient involved here, no number here, just absolute value by itself equal the number. If absolute value by itself equal the number and that number is negative, we end up having a positive because the property of absolute value is that absolute value is always positive, greater or equal than 0. This is a positive and this is negative, they can never be equal. Second case, if E is equal 0, then absolute value of bx will be equal 0. So the only value that make absolute value equal 0 is 0. So then what you conclude? Bx equals 0. So then you solve as linear equations. You divide both sides by b, and you end up having x equal 0 because 0 divided by here x is greater than 0. Then we'll end up having what? Bx, that's mean, and we know if always positive, if absolute value of something positive is always, it may be negative or a positive. So here I discuss the case. If the inside is positive, that's mean equal minus e because up is e. So here we don't discuss the value of e, we discuss the value of the inside be positive or negative. You see, I have absolute value of side. It may be positive or negative. That means the inside, it may be equal if the inside, like I'm solving linear equation, x will be e over b, and don't forget or here. So if I want to solve for it, so here, because I don't know what's the sign of 7x, if it's positive or negative. This is why I discussed both cases. If 7x is positive, so absolute value of 7x will be 7x equal 21. If 7x is negative, that means absolute value of 7x will be minus 21. You see, either we have the inside is positive or the inside is negative. So in that case here I solve as a regular equation. So I divide both sides by here by 7 and here divide by 7. So here at the end I will have x equal 3 or x equal minus 3. So this is for case 1. For case 2, so we are going to see when so a is equal to 1, b is not equal 0, c is not equal 0, and d is equal 0. Which means I will solve for bx plus c is equal to e. So here again, if e is less than 0, if e is negative, so I'll have positive equal negative, which is impossible. So then conclude with no solution. So example, if I have 3x minus 7 equal minus 4. You see, we don't care about the inside how it look like. You see, the whole inside is a number. That means absolute value of that thing is positive. I'm not talking about the inside is positive. No, it cannot. I hope it's clear because I remember it's one thing. It's not this. Let me show you how what I mean. So suppose I have this. Its value of something is absolute value of that thing is positive. True. Value equals negative. The whole thing is under absolute value. So this means this should be this is positive number. That means the whole thing, this statement is positive, equal to negative. This is contradiction. It's false. So if E is equal 0, so in that case I will end up having what? Then absolute value of Bx plus C is equal 0. So the only number far from 0 and equals 0 is 0. So that means I will have Bx plus C is 0. Then I solve as a regular linear equation. So what I do here, I minus C both sides. So I got Bx equal minus C. Then divide by B. Then I will have X equal minus C over B. For example, so let me give you an example. If I want to solve for 7x minus 14 equals 0. So the whole number is far from 0 by 0. The only number far from 0 by 0 is just 0 itself. So which means that 7x minus 14 is equal 0. Now it's become a two-step linear equation. So I add 14 both sides. So I got 7x equal 14. Then divide by 7 both sides. Then I will end up having x equal 2. I hope it's clear. So now if E is greater than 0, so then in that case what do we have? We have absolute value of Bx plus C equal E. And here we discuss the case of the inside of the absolute value, if the inside is positive or the inside is negative. So this is why we have two cases here. You see it's greater than 0. So Bx plus C is equal E, or Bx plus C is equal minus E. Now I solve it as regular two steps linear equations. So here I minus C both sides. I got Bx equal E minus C divided by B both sides. So my x will be E minus C over B. Or I do the same thing here. I minus C both sides. I got Bx equal minus E minus C over B. And minus C over B. Then we divide B both sides. Sorry. Then I will have x equal minus E minus C over P. So those are the two solutions when E is positive. And let me show you a common mistake most of the students do. I will give you an example, and during the example I will show you what's the mistake the student do in this case. So example, Alright, so for example, if I want to solve for this absolute value of 4x minus 7 equal, for example, 5. So here, this is positive, so I will open it into two equations. So I have 4x minus 7 equal 5, and 4x minus 7 equal negative 5. Alright, so let me show you the mistake the student do. Now, forget this case. So what they do, they solve for the case when it's positive. So they add 7, they got 4x equal 12, divided by 4, and they got x equal 3. So this is how they solve the first one. For the second one, what they do, they say, okay, the answer one positive, one negative. So what they do, and they put all x equal minus 3. And they don't do the second one. So this is the common mistake. Don't do that. It's wrong. So look when I solve for the second one. So I got 4x minus 7 equal minus 5. When I add 7 both sides, 4x will be 2. When I divide by 4, I got x equal half. It's not minus 3. You see, it's not because absolute value I will have a positive answer and a negative answer. No. The inside is maybe positive or the inside may be negative. This has nothing to do with the x. For both cases, may x be both way positive or both negative or one positive or negative. For our case here, the right solution is what do we have? We have either x equal 3 or x equal half. You see, both of them are positive. So be careful. Don't be lazy. Do both equations. If you end up having one positive and one negative, because you may have that case, but it's not a general case. That means it's not always. So please do the two cases when the inside is positive, which is equal to 5, and when the inside is negative. Now, case 3, which is the last case I will discuss today. Case 3 is when we have A is not equal to 1, B is not 0, C is not 0, and D equals 0. So in that case, I will try to solve A as the value Vx plus C equal E. So this is different than case 2 because we have A is not equal to 1. Case 2, we have A equal 1. You see, with that case 3, what I do one steps to make it look like case 2. So what we do, we divide both sides by A. Then I will end up having my case 2 again, which is that number. So now I discuss that number by itself. So if E over A is less than 0, then no solution. So you see, we come back to case 2. So for example, suppose I have minus 5, 3x plus 4 is equal to 7. So when I divide both sides by minus 5, so we'll end up having absolute value of 3x plus 4 is equal to minus 7 over 5. So this is negative, this is positive, that means no solution. You see, I didn't conclude from the beginning. Also, the student or division or multiplication. Move the number to the other side. then check the sign of the result. Check if it is equal to something positive, no solution. But if this is positive equals something positive, then you split it into two equations. So this is for that case. If e bx at bx plus c equals 0, just for x, you will end up having x equal minus c over b, minus c both sides divided by b. Let me give you an example here. For example, if I have minus 3, absolute value of 4x plus 7 equals 0. First thing what I do, I divide by minus 3. So this will cancel out. So we end up having what? 4x plus 7. So 0 divided by minus 3. There is no such thing as minus 0. There is no such thing as minus 0. Anything divided 0 is 0. So 0 divided by minus 3 is 0. So anything divide 0 is 0. So that means the quotient is always 0. So there's no minus or plus 0. There's only 0. So this is going to lead me to 4x plus 7 equals 0. Then I solve as linear equations. So minus 7 both sides. So I got 4x equal minus 7 and divide by 4 minus 7 over 4. And one more thing, I just remember now. Some students, when they find out the answer here, when they put at the side, they put no solution. You see, absolute value is positive, not the x. The x is the value the variable that we're looking for. It may be positive, may be negative. So we are not discussing the sign of x. We're discussing the sign of the absolute value. If the absolute value equal a negative number, then there's no solution. But when you end up having that statement and you solve, don't mess up at the end because this is your answer. X, it may be positive or negative. You see, don't solve for x. Oh, it's negative. That means there's no solution. So be careful. The third case is if e over a is greater than 0. So then in that case, you split it into two equations. So bx plus c equal to e over a. So then it will become as bx plus c equal e over a, or bx plus c equal minus e over a. Now this is just linear equations. You solve for this. Let me give you an example. So here after that you solve. So let me put it here. Solve for x. Alright, so let me give you an example. You know what, let me solve for x because I don't know, I don't like some students see it and they stop there. So here what we do, we minus c both side. So I got bx equal e over a minus c. The same thing here, minus c both side. I got bx equal minus e over a minus c. Then after that, this is just a number. I divide both sides by b. So the numerator is a number. So when you have a number, you're going to see that this is just a number. Then you divide by another number. So we end up having x equal e over a minus c, the whole thing divided by b. Or x equal minus e over a minus c, the whole thing divided by b. Alright, let me show you an example, and you're going to see that this is just a number. Alright, so let me show you an example. Alright, suppose I have the absolute value 5x minus 7 equal 15. So here I divide, you know what, let me put a minus here. So it's not because I have a minus I conclude right away, oh, this is no solution, or here I have a minus, I conclude there's no solution. No. First thing, let me divide and isolate absolute value. So I got 5x minus 7 equal 5. You see, absolute value equal a positive number. Then what I do, 5x minus 7 is equal to 5, or 5x minus 7 equal to negative 5. So here I add 7 both sides. I got 5x equal 12. Here I add 7 both sides. I got 5x equal 2. Now I divide both sides by 5. So my x will be 12 over 5, or x will be 2/5. Those are my two solutions. So this is all about how to solve absolute value linear equations. So we are going to discuss case 4 in the coming lesson. So please, if you have any comment that help me improve my way of teaching, so do so. It will help me a lot. So thank you for watching the video, and assalamu alaikum.